Hi, in this session we are going to discuss about cell suspension culture. So what all we'll be discussing in this session is that what is the definition of cell suspension culture, what are the principles of cell suspension culture, what are the protocols, then general account, what are the different types in which we can initiate a cell suspension culture, and growth pattern of cells in a suspension culture, and measurement of cell growth, and how viability of cells in suspension culture can be tested, and what is the importance of cell suspension culture. First of all, what is cell suspension culture? Cell suspension culture is like all other tissue culture. It's also a type of culture. And in this particular type of culture, we are culturing single cells or small aggregates of cells. And these single cells or small aggregates of cells are multiplying within an agitated liquid medium. So, cell suspension culture is the type of culture in which single cells or small aggregate of cells multiply while suspended in agitated liquid medium. And another name for cell suspension culture is cell culture, or it can also be called as cell suspension culture or simply suspension culture. Now let's see what are the principles of cell suspension culture. We all know that callus is an unorganized proliferating mass of cells. As callus always contains a group of cells, it is very difficult to follow the cellular events which are taking place during growth and events in a callus cell. So as it's seen as a mass of cells, it is very difficult to follow the changes which are taking place during growth and development in an individual cells. And so to overcome this limitation, single cells or small aggregates of cells were cultured in chemically defined liquid medium as suspension. And by initiating cell suspension culture, we can study the morphological and biochemical changes which take place during growth and development. And from callus, how can we obtain an ideal cell suspension culture? So for obtaining an ideal cell suspension culture, we are actually using friable callus. As we all know that friable callus, such a callus in which the cells can separate easily, or the cells of that particular callus have minimal contact. It is also known as soft callus. So first of all, a friable callus is transferred to an agitated liquid medium. So when this callus is transferred to a liquid medium which is moving, it breaks up and readily dispenses. After this callus has broken up and dispensed in that medium, we eliminate or remove the large aggregates. And these large aggregates can be removed by sieving. And after removal of these large aggregates, single cells or small aggregates are taken and they are transferred to fresh medium. So, for obtaining ideal cell culture, friable callus is taken. It is transferred into agitated liquid medium. Due to the agitation, the callus breaks up and dispenses in that medium. And after, we sieve that medium to remove the large aggregates, and single cells or small aggregates are then transferred to new medium. And after 2 to 3 weeks, we get suspension of actively growing cells. And this suspension can be propagated by regular subculturing of an aliquot to fresh medium. And usually an ideal suspension culture should contain only single cells which are physiologically and biochemically uniform. So the ideal suspension culture contains only single cells, and all the cells of that culture are physiologically and biochemically uniform. So we are initiating a self-suspension culture from a callous culture. So there are certain advantages for the suspension culture over callous culture. Many limitations of callous culture can be overcome using self-suspension culture. Due to movements of cells in a medium, in a suspension culture, gaseous exchange take place. Then polarity of cells due to gravity can be removed and nutrient gradient within the medium can be eliminated. So unlike a callous culture, in a cell suspension culture, gaseous exchange is there. Polarity, which is caused by gravity, can be eliminated in a suspension culture as the cells are continuously moving. And third one, nutrient gradient also can be eliminated within the medium in a suspension culture. Next is a protocol for initiating a cell suspension culture. First of all, we are taking 150 to 250 ml conical flask, and in that conical flask we are adding about 40 to 60 ml autoclaved medium, and to this medium 3 to 4 pre-established callus is transferred using a spoon headed spatula. After transferring this callus into conical flask, we are flaming the neck of conical flask and we cover it with a cotton plug and then cover the cotton plug with it brown paper. And as we already mentioned, the cells in a cell suspension culture are suspended in a agitated liquid medium, that means moving liquid medium. For agitation of the medium, we are placing the flask in a rotary shaker and the shaker is set or moving at 80 to 120 rpm. And after 7 days, for removing the larger aggregates or separating and taking the single cells or smaller aggregate, we are sieving the contents of the flask through a sterilized sieve, and the pour diameter of the sieve is 60 to 100 nu. And after we have sieved the contents, we allow the filtrate to settle for 10 to 15 minutes, or other than settling, we can centrifuge it at 500 to 1000 rpm and then pour off the supernatant. When we are centrifuging this, all the cells will settle at the bottom and the remaining liquid or the supernatant can be poured off. After that, we are again resuspending this residual cell in required volume of fresh medium. So after centrifugation, the cell might have settled down. The settled cell, we are again resuspending them in a required volume of fresh medium, and we are transferring this into different flask. And after that, again the flask are placed on shaker which is rotating at 80 to 120 rpm, and in the next subculture we are adding 1/5 of the residual cells as the inoculum and dispense and keep in shaker. And after 3 to 4 subculture, about 10 ml of cell suspension is transferred to 30 ml fresh medium. So initially when we are resuspending, according to volume we require, we add fresh medium and dispense them in several flasks. Later on in the next subculture, only 1/5 we are taking, and after 3 or 4 subculture, only 10 ml of cell suspension is transferred into fresh medium. So that was the protocol which we are following for initiating a cell suspension culture. Now we are going to discuss about the general account of suspension culture. So as already mentioned, a suspension culture can be initiated or started from a callus, or it can also be started from an explant. So we can either use callus or we can use an explant for starting a cell suspension culture. So for starting a culture, the callus or explant is transferred into a liquid medium which is continuously agitated in a moving elliptical or rotary shaker. So this callus or explant is transferred into liquid medium which is kept in a shaker. And this movement of medium helps in two things. First one is that movement of medium helps in aeration to sustain cellular respiration in liquid medium. If you are keeping a mass of cells or an explant in a liquid medium, naturally it will tend to sink to the bottom. So it can lead to death of that explant. So by keeping the medium in a shaker, we are making sure that aeration to sustain cellular respiration in liquid medium is there, and also by movement of the media encourages the callus to break up. And as cell division starts in the callus tissue or on the explant surface, they shed and disperse these cells to the medium directly. And friable callus is the most ideal for starting a cell suspension culture. And if the callus is less friable, then separation of cells of the callus can be achieved by modifying the nutrient media. That is, increasing the oxygen concentration can lead to separation of cells of the callus, or in very low concentration we can add enzymes like pectinase or cellulase which help in dispensing of the cells of the callus. And the period of incubation during which an suspension culture is developed from a callus culture is called as initiation passage. So the time period in between a callus culture to develop into a suspension culture, that time period is called as initiation passage. And during this passage, callus tissue breaks up and cell grows and divides. And this callus tissue's growth and division take place until the medium is depleted. And usually we are establishing suspension culture in conical flask, and they are incubated on a shaker for agitation of medium, and the shaker is set at a RPM of 80 to 120. And the cell suspension which are developed at the initial passage is then sieved or passed through a nylon mesh to remove the larger pieces, and the filtrate is again resuspended into fresh medium to initiate passage 1 suspension. So the protocol we had already mentioned. So the time of incubation between a callus culture and establishing a suspension culture, that time period is called as initiation passage. And during this initiation passage, for two things are taking place. First one is that callus tissue breaks up. Second process which is taking place is cell grows and divide. This growth and division of cell continues until the medium is depleted. Next we are going to mention in what condition we are growing the cells for cell suspension culture. Usually it is grown in a conical flask of 150 ml or 250 ml volume, and the conical flask is always placed in a shaker, and the shaker is rotating at a speed of 80 to 120 rpm. And the medium suitable for growing a callus culture is also suitable for starting a cell suspension culture, provided that agar is removed from that medium. So cell suspension culture is always growing in a liquid medium. So the medium which is required for growth of callus of a particular species is suitable for starting a cell suspension culture of that particular species, but the agar from that medium should be removed. And in some cases, same concentration of auxin cytokinin can be used for starting a suspension culture also, but in certain cases the auxin cytokinin concentration used for callus culture should be reduced for suspension culture. And now coming to the characters of cells in a suspension culture. The size and shape of cells in a suspension culture varies. There are different size and different shapes, and these may be oval, round, elongated, or coiled cells may be present. And usually the cells of cell suspension culture, if they are seen as single cells, they may be thin walled. So if single cells are present in cell suspension culture, they will have thin walls, whereas in cell aggregates we can see lignified or trachea like elements. And from these cell aggregates within a suspension culture, they can give rise to either a plantlet or embryoid. So within a cell suspension culture, single cells or small aggregate cells are present. The single cells will have very thin wall, whereas in cell aggregate we can see certain cells with lignified or trachea like elements on the walls, and these aggregates in a cell suspension can give rise to plantlets or embryoids. So, cell aggregates in a suspension culture can be transferred to a solid nutrient medium for growth to give rise to a plantlet or embryoid. And from a cell suspension culture, if you are having single cells, they can also be transferred to solid nutrient medium for raising a callus from them, and from this callus a whole plantlet can be regenerated, and this plantlet which is regenerated from a single cell can be obtained. Next are the different types of cell suspension culture. Usually two types of cell suspension culture are present: batch culture and continuous culture, and both types are subdivided into different categories. Both batch culture and continuous culture has its own advantage. Batch culture is a type of culture in which cell materials grows in a finite volume of agitated medium, whereas continuous culture, in the system all liquid medium is continuously replaced by fresh liquid medium to stabilize the physiological state of growing cell. So in batch culture we are growing in a finite volume of agitated medium, whereas in continuous culture we are continuously changing the medium. As and when the nutrients of the medium get depleted, we are changing the medium so that cells which are present in that culture are stabilized in a particular physiological state. So now we are going to discuss the different type of batch culture. Batch culture means in a finite volume we are culturing cells. So this type of suspension culture where cell materials grow in a finite volume of agitated liquid is called as batch culture, and they are usually maintained in conical flasks, and they are kept in shakers at a speed of 80 to 120 rpm. And these are the different type of batch culture: slowly rotating cultures, shake cultures, spinning culture, and stirred cultures. First, so slowly rotating cultures. Single cells or cell aggregates are grown in specialized designed flask called as nipple flask. So this is an example of nipple flask, and this nipple flask has 8 nipple like projection. You can see this is the nipple like projection. Each nipple flask has 8 nipple like projection, and each flask has a capacity of 250 ml. 250 ml. And 10 flasks are loaded in a circular manner. Here we can see this is a single nipple flask, and 10 such flasks has been loaded in a circular manner. On a large flat disc of vertical shaker, and as the name mentioned, this is a slowly rotating culture. This particular disc is rotating at a speed of 1 to 2 rpm, so that each cells within the flask are alternatively bathed in culture medium and exposed to air. So this particular disc is rotating at a speed of 1 to 2 rpm, and each nipple of the flask are alternatively bathed in culture medium. Now the lower portion is bathed in culture medium and the upper portion is exposed to air. As this keeps on rotating, each nipple get alternatively exposed to air and nutrient medium. This rotation is taking place at a speed of 1 to 2 rpm. It is rotating at a very slow speed. Next one is shake culture. Here cells or cell aggregates are placed on a conical flask, and the flask is kept in a shaker which is rotating at a rpm of speed of 60 to 180 rpm. So in shake culture, we are doing that culture in a conical flask, and conical flask is kept in a shaker which is rotating at a speed of 60 to 180 rpm. Next one is spinning culture. Here we are taking larger volume of cell suspension culture. Usually 10 liter bottles are taken. In the above mentioned two, only little amount, 250 ml conical flask or 500 ml conical flask is taken. Here in spinning culture, large volume, that is 10 liter bottles are taken for culture of cell suspension, and it is rotated in a spinner at a speed of 120 rpm, and it is placed at an angle of 45 degree. So difference of spinning culture from the other two techniques is that larger volume is taken here. 10 liter bottles are used here. And next one is stirred culture. Here also for large scale culture we are using stirred culture technique, and in the previous methods, we are rotating the culture by keeping it in a shaker, whereas in stirred culture, we are mixing or agitating the medium by bubbling of air and not by rotation. So instead of keeping in a shaker, we are passing sterile air into that medium, so that as the bubble moves, the medium gets agitated. Or other than using air, we can also use magnetic stirrer for agitation, and this magnetic stirrer is rotated at 200 to 600 rpm. So for large scale culture we are using stirred culture, and here agitation of medium is done either by using air or using a magnetic stirrer. These are the different batch culture method. Next is continuous culture. So continuous culture means we are continuously changing the medium. When and where the medium nutrients in the medium get depleted, we are adding new medium. So this is similar to stirred culture. An old medium is replaced by fresh medium once the medium start getting depleted, and by changing the medium, the cells can be maintained at a stable physiological state. So in a continuous culture, nutrient depletion never occurs, and suspension culture can be done in two ways: chemostat and turbidostat. So in a chemostat is a cylindrical or circular shaped culture vessel. There is we are continuously removing the medium as it gets depleted. So in a chemostat there is an inlet and outlet both for air and also for removing cells and medium, and chemostat is ideal for studying growth kinetics. Whereas in turbidostat, as the cells in a cell suspension culture increase in number, the turbidity of the suspension changes. That is, as the cell number increases, the suspension become more turbid. That is, a clear liquid turns into a foggy liquid as the number of cells in that liquid increases. So this is called as turbidity, and this change or fogginess of the medium or change in turbidity can be measured by optical density, and this change in number of cells can also lead to pH change of the medium. So in a turbidostat there are automatic monitoring system for optical density and pH. So there is automatic monitoring system for changes in pH or changes in optical density, and they keep on adding new medium according to changes in pH or optical density. So these are two methods of continuous culture, chemostat and turbidostat. In turbidostat, we are changing the medium according to changes in pH or turbidity of the medium. Next is growth pattern in cell suspension culture. And usually a sigmoid shaped growth is seen in cell suspension culture, and the growth pattern under appropriate external and medium condition, the growth patterns of cells occur in a predictable manner, and growth can be measured using or monitored using an hemocytometer. And usually cells in a cell suspension culture show a sigmoid shaped growth curves, and there are different phases for this growth curve. That is, a lag phase is there, a logarithmic phase is there, a linear phase is there, and a stationary phase is there. So there are 4 different phases through which a cell growth curve has, that is lag phase, logarithmic phase, linear phase, and stationary phase. In the lag phase or during the lag phase, the cells of the culture are adjusting themselves to the nutrient medium, and also synthesis necessary for cell division are occurring. The second phase is logarithmic phase, and during logarithmic phase, very rapid increase in cell number occur due to rapid cell division. So there is a logarithmic increase in the cell number. And after logarithmic phase is the linear phase, where the rapid cell division result in a linear increase. First, the cell is adjusting during lag phase. Second, an exponential increase occur during logarithmic phase. Third, a linear increase in cell number occur during linear phase. And last phase is stationary phase. That is, when the nutrients of the medium get depleted, it reaches stationary phase. So some of the cells in this stationary phase show senescent characters, and rate of cell division start declining during the stationary phase, and cell division reaches a stationary level during the stationary phase, and growth curve forms a plateau at this stage. So cells which are removed just before or just after they have entered to a stationary phase, when they are transferred into new medium, an identical pattern of growth can be maintained. That means when the cells are removed from a suspension culture just before they enter the stationary phase or immediately after they have entered the stationary phase. Such cells, if they are cultured, then again we'll get such a sigmoidal growth curve. Next are the different measurements for cell growth in a cell suspension culture. So growth in a cell suspension can be determined by cell number, cell dry weight or packed cell volume. So first one is cell number. Cell number is the increase in cell and it can be counted using a hemocytometer. And the cell count data which we have obtained from the hemocytometer can be multiplied by a factor of 10 raised to 3 to get the cell number, and the result can be expressed as cell number per unit volume of culture. Second method of measurement is cell number increase in the medium leads to the medium becoming more turbid and also changes in optical density, and the optical density can be measured using calorimeter for measuring the growth. Third method is that definite volume or equal volume of a cell suspension can be harvested from multiple replicates set of culture, and this volume of cell suspension can be transferred to a graduated conical centrifuge tube and centrifuge at 2000 G for 5 minutes. So when we are centrifuging the cell suspension, the cells tend to settle down and the cell will form pellet. This here is a pellet. The cells after centrifugation has suspended down. All these are pellet. After the cells are suspended down, we call them pellet, and the volume of cell pellet is represented as packed cell volume. It is also called as biomass volume, and in definite periods of intervals we can measure packed cell volume, and the growth in a packed cell volume can be expressed as milliliter cell pellets per milliliter culture. Next are the different tests for viability of cells. During growth, as and when the medium is depleted, cell death also take place in cell suspension culture. And studies on growth, the test for viability is also important, and two different staining methods have been used for testing the viability. That is, fluorescein diacetate stain can be used or Evans blue stain can be used. In fluorescein diacetate stain, the stain is prepared by adding 5 mg FDA per ml of acetone, and this is added to cell population in such that way that the final concentration is 0.01%. And when we are adding fluorescein diacetate stain, dead cells do not fluorescence, whereas in the living cells the fluorescein diacetate is cleaved by an enzyme called esterase, and this results in a molecule which fluoresces green. So fluorescein diacetate stain is taken up by the living cells, and within the living cells this FDA is cleaved by an enzyme esterase into a molecule which fluoresces green. So in FDA the live cells will be green in color, whereas the dead cells will not be having any color. Next staining method is Evans blue, and Evans blue is also added to the cell population at a concentration of 0.01%, and here the inviable cells or the dead cells remain stained blue and the living cells remain unstained. So Evans blue, the dead cells are taking up the stain and living cell remain unstained, whereas in fluorescein diacetate the living cells are giving the color whereas dead cells do not give color. Another method of testing the viability is using of tetrazolium salt. Usually in living cells the tetrazolium salt is reduced to form a zone which is a red color dye, and by spectrophotometrically measuring the red color of the medium, we can determine the concentration of cells. And also phase contrast microscope can be used for studying viability of cells. And these are the different importance of cell suspension culture. It can be used for studying cell physiology and changes which are taking place, or cell biochemistry which are taking place during growth and development of cells. And it can be used for studying how embryos are formed or how organs are developed in culture. Then cell suspension culture can also be used for initiating secondary metabolite production. It can be also used for mutagenesis study. Thank you.